Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, my humble obeisances to you all, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you all for joining His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's daily class. Today we are going to continue with Srimad Bhagavatam series of first canto, 15th chapter, Pandavas retired timely. We are at the end of the chapter. Today's verse is verse number 50. We are happy to have His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj on the call. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'll share my screen. You can take over, Maharaj. Today's verse is verse number 50.
Glories Prabhupada, Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Draupadi cha tadagyaya. Patinam amipiksatam Vasudevi Bhagavati Ye Kantam Matir Apatam. Translation: Draupadi also saw that her husbands, without caring for her, were leaving home. She knew well about Lord Vasudeva Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Both she and Subhadra became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and attained the same results as their husband. Therefore, when flying an airplane, one cannot take care of other planes. Everyone has to take care of his own plane. If there is any danger, no other plane can help another in that condition. Similarly, at the end of life, when one has to go back home, back to Godhead, everyone has to take care of himself without help rendered by another. The help is, however, offered on the ground before flying in space. Similarly, the spiritual master, the father, the mother, the relatives, the husband, and others can also render help during one's lifetime. While crossing the sea, one has to take care of himself and utilize the instructions formerly received. Draupadi had 5 husbands, and no one can ask Draupadi to come. Draupadi had to take care of herself without waiting for her great husbands. And because she was already trained, she at once took to concentration on the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The wives also got the same results as their husbands. In the same manner, that is to say, without changing their bodies, they reached the destination of Godhead. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur suggests that both Draupadi and Subhadra, although her name is not mentioned herein, got the same results. None of them had to quit the body. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swam Padatikam Maum Vaishnavadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Gauravani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Evase Sasunyavadi Paschatyare Satarani Vanshikopatani Nischa Pipan Sindhu Bebacha Patitanam Pavane Bhyo Vaishnavi Bhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So,
Maharaj, sorry to interrupt. Can we take the next verse too? It is the last verse of the chapter.
yeah, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to speak on this too first and
Yeah.
get to the next verse. Yeah, for sure. So this particular verse here describes the goal of life, tattve ante kale smarnam, that at the end of life one has to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Life is ultimately a preparation for death. We're preparing to go back home, back to Godhead, and that moment will come when we have to leave the body. Ante Narayan Smriti. And so preparing for that moment, we can get help. We do get help. We need help from our spiritual master, well-wishers, friends, relatives, and others, God brothers, God sisters, scriptures, various ways, Krishna himself, Prashadam. There's so many well-wishers that come in different forms to help us develop that consciousness, which is fundamental to either going back home or getting another body in this material existence. And so preparing for death means to really practice Krishna consciousness at every moment. And when one has been practicing Krishna consciousness and absorbed in the practice, even though one may not be perfect, if one is using all of one's time, energy resources and the benefits that come through those resources. That is the listings that we just gave, starting with the spiritual master. Then one will actually attain perfection even at the time of death. So here it's explained that at that time you're on your own. In other words, you're flying your own plane. Even though there are planes flying in the area, you have to fly your own plane and not, depend on others to fly your plane for you. All the help you take is coming up to that point of death. And then, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yamam Bhapisparam Bhavam Attanktve Ante Yalevam Tamtami Vaita Kote Siddhanta Bhava Bhavitaha. And when it's time to quit the body, then whatever consciousness you attain at that time of departure, that is where that'll project you to your next destination. So for devotee, the destination is not anything in this material world, but to attain actually the realm of deathlessness, that is the spiritual world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, far beyond this Tasmad. What is this? What is that verse? That there is another realm of existence. It's mentioned in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that there is another realm beyond this material realm, which is never created. It's the abode of the Supreme Lord, and it's never annihilated. That is the goal of human life. And so that goal, as it mentions here, that both she and that is Draupadi and Subhadra, although probably Subhadra's name, it says, is not mentioned here, but it is, because it's in the translation. You can see it, both she and Subhadra became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and attained the same results as her husband, their husbands. And usually a wife will carry 50% of the benefit that her husband carries. She automatically gets 50% of his pious activities. If he's a great devotee, that propels her in a very significant way towards getting perfection in life. So both Subhadra and Draupadi had that facility. Subhadra was the sister of Krishna. She was the husband of Abhimanyu. And then she was the granddaughter of Arjun. And Draupadi was the wife of the Pandavas, all 5 of them. So they had a lot of spiritual merit. Of course, Subhadra is actually Yogamaya. She appears as the sister of Lord Krishna, plays the role as the wife of Arjuna's son, Abhimanyu. So this is very instructive, that the time of death is a very critical time, and it's actually the purpose of everything that we perform. In Bengal, there is a saying, your bhajan, or whatever you've done at the time of your life, will be tested at the time of your death. Well, I forgot. Bhajan Koro, Hatte Koro, something, I can't remember the actual statement. If anybody knows the Bengali translation for that, you can write it up and put it in the chat and display it. Bhajan Koro, Hatten Koro, something like that. Johnny Hoy. Prabhupada quotes it often, yeah. So the time of death is very critical, and one should prepare now and not wait for the last minute. Bhajan Koro, Saran Koro, Marte Janle Hoi. Thank you. Excellent. Marte Janle Hoi. Bhajan Koro, yeah. So, yeah, at the time of death, it will be, you'll be tested to what you do your whole life at the time of death. If you call out for your wife, your husband, your children, your money, or even your body, then you're destined to, again, get a chance to serve those things by taking birth again in another situation in the material world. But if you've been practicing Krishna consciousness in a serious way, following strictly the instructions of the spiritual master, then your consciousness will be pristine and ready for that, because the time of death is not easy. Many times people undergo so much physical difficulties. Of course, Krishna mitigates that, but still there is sometimes a lot of difficulties, and the soul is now being asked to leave its position. We see sometimes, many times, especially for devotees, when there is a departure of the soul, kirtan begins in a very serious way. So sometimes the soul doesn't want to leave the body and wants to go back into that same body after it's left. So to prevent that soul from coming back into that body and pushing it on to an auspicious destination, we do kirtan like that, and we do prayers. A lot of times people in the material world, when they die, they become ghosts because they're thrown out of their body all of a sudden, and the soul in the subtle body, which means mind, intelligence, and false ego, is the encasement of the soul, is now looking for somewhere to go, and has no place to go. It has no more physical body, and so it becomes a ghost, and it hovers in different places. And sometimes it'll go into the bodies of others in order to have a physical body, in order to function. That's why people get attacked or harassed by these not celestial, but these ghostly beings, who are sometimes their relatives, friends, and others, who are thrown out of their body with no place to go. And many times, because of their strong desire to stay in the material world, they don't push on to their next destination, wherever it is. And sometimes they find themselves floating in a state of equilibrium, not knowing. There are many ghosts like that. That usually happens when there is a sudden death, such as a car accident. Somebody dies really fast in a car accident, or some calamity that happens quickly when the soul is thrown out of the body with no previous notice of its is about to happen, so that people become ghosts. But devotees have to be careful. They always have to be ready for that time. As it said, we should always remember the holy name, and we should always remember that death will happen at any moment. So but here we find perfection. Subhadra and Draupadi thought of Krishna, and we got the same results as their husbands. In other words, they attained perfection. And it says here, they reached the destination of Godhead. So that's the goal. Coming back into another material situation, even if it's a better material situation, it's concessionary. It's not the goal. Devotees who are serious in their practice dread the idea of coming back even in a better material situation. Sometimes, of course, great souls, they want to come back to preach Krishna consciousness, but that's a rare situation. And they do, and they come back and they keep assisting their spiritual master in the process of preaching to the conditioned souls by taking another birth in the material world to assist in spreading Lord Chaitanya's mission. But there are very rare, those souls who actually attain to that state of perfection. But to go back home, back to Godhead is, yes, it is total dread to think that I have to come back and start all over again. And again, and Prabhupada used to say, sometimes people think, well, if I get another life, then, I'll get another chance. But then the point comes, yes, you're getting another chance, but what stopped you from attaining perfection will be there in your next life if you have to face that same desire, that same obstacle again. So why wait for another life? It doesn't mean you're going to get a better situation to deal with that obstacle. Better to finish up in this life and go back home, back to Godhead, or those who are fully surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord sometimes wants them to come back and preach Krishna consciousness, and they willingly do that. But in any case, perfection is the goal, and the time of death is the test of what we've done for the whole life. Okay, next verse. And this is the final verse in the chapter. Yastradayatad Bhagavad Priyanam Padau Sutanam Iti Samprayanam Srinyamalam Swastayanam Pavitram Labdva Haro Bhaktam Upaiti Siddhim. The subject of the departure of the sons of Pandu for the ultimate goal of life, back home, back to Godhead, is fully auspicious and is perfectly pure. Therefore, anyone who hears this narration with devotional faith certainly gains for the devotional service of the Lord the highest perfection of life. Purport: Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration about the personality of God and the devotees of the Lord like the Pandavas. The narration of the personality of God and his devotees is absolute in itself, and thus to hear it with devotional attitude is to associate with the Lord and constant companions of the Lord. By the process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can attain the highest perfection of life, namely going back home, back to Godhead without failure. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Pandavas Retire Timely. Now, this particular verse is called Phalastuti. Phalastuti, phala means fruit, and stuti means the benefit. The benefit of hearing these narrations of the great souls as they perform their activities in pure devotional service. It says here, anyone who hears this narration with devotional faith in the process of devotional service, certainly gains devotional service of the Lord. So you might say, well, I'm a devotee, but that doesn't really indicate that one has achieved devotional service. Only when one is fixed, when I use that word fixed, nishta, fully fixed in execution devotional service, has one attained to the devotional service of the Lord. We're still mixing our devotional service with material desires and activities. We haven't reached the path yet. We are playing with the preliminaries of the path. Devotional service starts Mamchayo Vivatarena Bhakti Yogena Sevati Sagunam Sayad Samatitya Itam Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpatan. And one who is engaged fully in devotional service does not fall down in any situation and attains to the state of the Brahman, the principle or the process of pure devotional service. So some of us are practicing to get onto the path, some of us are on the path, some of us devotees are on different levels, but only when you are free from 75% of your anarthas fixed in devotional service have you actually begun the process of devotional service. So devotional service is the intrinsic nature of the soul's existence. The soul by nature is fully absorbed in thoughts of the Lord and service to the Lord. When we get at least to that stage where we can focus fully on the activities of devotional service, then we have attained to the stage of bhakti. Just like it says in one verse, Satam prasangam mamavirya samvido bhavanti vidkarna rasayana katana josina tarapavardhani ratir bhaktir anuham kumishyati. That by hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord in the association of pure devotees, one has performed very auspicious activities, and now one is situated on the path of devotional service. So when we develop a taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, then we're developing the path of devotional service, because that is the nature of the soul's existence. The soul cannot be without Krishna, but the soul falls to the material world, and thinking that it can somehow or other exist in a state of happiness and success by manipulating the material energy in order to find some happiness. And that is what you might say, the original sin, the desire to enjoy separately from the Lord. And in order to perform that activity, one has to have some position of control, and that control means to try to manipulate the material energy. And that manipulation cannot be done. It can be done to some degree, but material energy, it works under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can try to control the material energy, but whatever success you do have really indicates that you're being controlled by that same energy you're trying to control. Just like you see people who are attached to smoking. So they want to smoke, and so they do, but they're being controlled by that cigarette or by that activity, and they think that they're doing the activity, but the activity has grabbed them, and they are controlled by that activity. So in the same way, the living entity, by its desire to enjoy the material energy, plugs into or connects with one of the aspects of the material energy, either goodness, passion, or ignorance, or a combination of all through three or two in different forms and different levels of combination. And based on that, there are 8,400,000 species of life. One gets a particular body according to that. And even in the human form of life, the bodies are there, and one gets a body according to that desire to control and enjoy in this material world. Krishna facilitates that desire by allowing the material energy to give the living entity a particular body suitable for their level of trying to control the material energy. But as we explained, Krishna says that material energy is my energy, and no one can control it. I control it, and it works under my direction. So as we say, when you try to control it, you become controlled by it, like that. And therefore, the living entity in the material world is in the illusion that they can find happiness in a place that is contrary to their natural constitutional position. That is, to render loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. But when one awakens to the path of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master and develops determination in the execution of one's devotional service, then one fixes themselves on that path and gradually makes advancement, purifying all of their desires for material enjoyment until they reach the stage of affection for the Lord, and then ultimately that affection stage matures to the stage of pure love. When that stage comes, it's just a matter of time before they will achieve the perfection of going back home, back to Godhead. So hearing about the great souls is great service. as it says here. Anyone who hears a narration with devotional faith certainly gains devotional service, the highest perfection of life. So if we have been hearing about this, if we come every day to the classes, even if we don't ask any questions, of course, it'd be nice to ask questions, even if you don't have ask, but if you hear with absorption, attention, listen to the discussions, read the verses, you're actually becoming purified and qualified to reach the stage of fixation on the path of devotional service. Bhagavatam is auspicious simply by hearing even one word of Bhagavatam, one gains great spiritual merit. What to speak of hearing it every day. Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. This verse is a very fundamental verse that even that by regular hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam and by service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious in the heart, that means all of those desires for fruitive activity, are gradually destroyed, and loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is established as irrevocable. That means irrevocable fact. In other words, it's one is still has a slight tendency for material attachment, but that will gradually be wiped away in due course of time. So this power to hear and chant regularly the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the most auspicious activities recommended in the process of pure devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was enunciating what are the essence of the practice of devotional service, he mentions in regular hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting of the holy name, worshiping the Lord and his form as Archavigraham, the deity, associating and serving devotees, and living in a holy place. These 5 principles are the 5 most powerful principles of devotional service. And then it goes on to explain that even someone who just comes to the practice of devotional service and takes up these 5 activities, they can also experience happiness and ecstasy in execution of these devotional services. But when that becomes fixed, then one becomes established on the process of pure devotional service. And that's just an automatically, it's just a matter of time before one goes back home, back to Godhead. As this verse purport here says, the one can attain the highest perfection of life going back home, back to Godhead without failure. When Srila Prabhupada ends the statement saying without failure, which one follows this process of hearing the glories of the Lord and the glories of the Lord's pure devotees from Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita is living Bhagavatam. It's the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Bhagavat himself. So that is non-different than Bhagavatam. So either way, these 2 scriptures are very powerful and they are pure, and they illustrate the glories of Krishna, or Krishna in the form of his most magnanimous incarnation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we are, of course, following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our whole line of acharyas, especially from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, or even before then, all the way down to Srila Prabhupada. His representatives are in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. And the essence of that teaching is to hear and chant the glories of the Lord by glorifying the Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the pinnacle of the practice of devotional service. I mean, there is nothing second to it. But all these other processes, such as serving the devotees and hearing Bhagavatam, are necessary in order to purify ourselves so we can chant ultimately to the level of pure chanting. Okay, so we'll stop there.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Such a wonderful class. Lot of powerful points. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments or realizations, you can please go ahead. Namrata Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. My humble obeisance, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Guru Maharaj, I have one clarification and one question. Clarification is from today's class. You mentioned that the Grihastha who is practicing Krishna consciousness, they gives 50% credits to their spouse. So, is it the case in non-devotees as well? Because many times we see in ISKCON that one of the spouse is practicing.
Well, if no, it's the husband that gives 50% of his sukriti to the wife. She benefits 50. She benefits from him. That's how it's explained. If the husband is Krishna conscious and the wife is not, she will get some benefit, but she will not get full benefit because she's not practicing. Because connected with someone who's practicing, she'll get obviously some benefit. Yeah, we
What
can
about
see.
the wife, Maharaj? If the wife is practicing, husband is not.
The husband, it's the same thing. The husband gets something, but he's not going to be able to go back to Godhead because he has to practice himself. It's up to Krishna how much benefit that he wants to give to that soul. But ultimately, just we saw the example of Dhruva Maharaj. When Dhruva Maharaj went back to Godhead, his mother wasn't executing devotional service, but because she was the person who put him on the path of devotional service by explaining that if you want to become successful, then you have to worship the Supreme Lord, and he took it up. And then, of course, when he went back to Godhead, he also asked that his mother also get mercy, and then he saw that the airplane that came to take him back to the spiritual world, there was another one just to his left where his mother was getting in a similar airplane. She also went back. So that's a prime example. Of course, his mother helped him, although she didn't practice. And of course, he was a pure devotee. So if you become a pure devotee, then your spouse or relatives get immense amount of benefit. If you're a mixed devotee and you leave the body, then they'll get in the same proportion. So devotional service is all auspicious. We can help our friends, relatives, and people in general simply by our own level of spiritual practice.
Thank you, Maharaj.
How much Krishna wants to give, that's up to him.
Correct. Yes. Thank you, Maharaj. So, another question is, before a few days, you sent on a mail the initiation ceremony, the article by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And one thing was, initiation imparts an initial impulse to go ahead, but it requires personal endeavor. The nature of the initial impulse also varies in accordance with the condition of the recipient. So I was trying to understand this. It imparts the initial impulse, but it depends on the recipient's I don't know how the recipient accepts it. So can you please explain it with an example or in an elaborated way so I can understand it well?
Well, the principle is there. Initiation is meant to formalize or to enunciate what is there within the heart. If it's not within the heart, the initiation process does not take fully. Although one may receive a name and get the blessings there, but real initiation's in the heart. How much you've actually dedicated your life to the process of following the instructions of that your spiritual master. So yeah, there are different people who take initiation who are doing it for a formal, in this formal sense, in order to gain some spiritual credits, or there's those who may want to feel special by joining a spiritual organization, getting a name like that. There's others who are very sincere, but who do not know the actual goal of devotional service. But all of these things are now, once was before, in the last, when we first started, Prabhupada gave initiations quite easily. One of the reasons why is because he was building his movement and he needed people to be initiated and engaged in devotional service. And by his presence and by his mercy, he made up the difference for what they lacked. And he also said that. But now we have a whole system of evaluation and accreditation based on a system of giving a person so many requirements before they actually take the initiation, to help them come to the stage of being ready for that initiation. Yeah. Being ready means that, yeah, when you get initiation, Prabhupada actually said, there's no question of not following. Before the initiation, you follow or not follow. But when it comes, once the initiation there, to not follow means to fall from grace, fall from that standard, even though you may have a name and you may have, have some time in practicing. So it's a matter of personal sincerity, how sincere you are. My spirit, one has to be willing to accept the instructions of the spiritual master and make those instructions their focus in life, their only focus in life.
So here, Gomaj, the impulse means the push.
Yeah, if we put our material responsibilities and our spiritual obligations on the same level, we haven't actually understood Krishna consciousness. We have to understand what Krishna consciousness is. It's the ultimate perfection of the soul's existence. And to attain that, it requires complete dedication and complete obedience to the instructions and guidance of the spiritual master. Not like we pick and choose what instructions we like. We think these are important, these are not important, these apply to someone else. No, not like that.
Correct.
I don't usually say this, and I never said it in public before. But since you're all asking, and I'm feeling a little enthusiastic tonight, I'll say it. So this is like a kind of a thing that spiritual masters speak amongst themselves, but they don't say it so much in public. But I'll say it. The spiritual master says, jump. And the disciple says, how high? That's the only response coming from a sincere devotee. Jump, how high? Not whether to jump or not jump, but how high do you Mamila. That's what it means to be a disciple. Not like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. If it's nice, I have so many other things to do. My spiritual life's important, but we're not fanatics. Fanatics for the right thing is good. Fanatic for the wrong thing is fanaticism. Anyway, that's what it
Thank
means.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Maharaj.
Maharaj.
So much.
Prabhupada used to say, my spiritual master is wrong, but he's right. Another example of complete obedience to the spiritual master. For example, when Prabhupada saw his spiritual master give an order to the devotees to kill a snake, they had gotten a new building, a nice marble building in Bagh Bazaar. Devotees were living nicely and they had many floors. So the snake had climbed all the way up to the second floor, which is usually impossible for a snake to get that high. And the devotees were running around what to do. And so Bhakti Siddhanta came out and said, kill the snake. So someone took a stick and killed the snake. Srila Prabhupada was there and he was thinking, how is it possible that a saintly person can order the killing of another living entity? So he didn't doubt the instructions, but he was a little bit bewildered about why he gave that instruction. So he didn't lose faith in his spiritual master, but he wasn't sure of why it was there. So later on, he came across one verse in the 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj, where it says that saintly persons feel great happiness when snakes and scorpions are killed. So that's a verse also. Not that they kill them, but when they see these living entities are killed, because these living entities are envious by nature, that means they will provoke an attack for no reason. Even if they're not provoked, these living entities cause trouble to others. Mosquitoes are the same thing. Mosquitoes, snakes, scorpions. For no reason, they attack. So when he read that, when our spiritual master read that verse, then his question became answered.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Maharaj, can I request you to tilt your laptop camera a little bit? We are not able to see. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Maharaj, we have a question on chat by Shreya Mataji. She is asking, Hare Krishna, please accept my most humble obeisances, Maharaj. Maharaj, I had a question. Like we see that Krishna's mercy is that he creates such a surrounding so that we pray to him intensely. But what to do if we are very much afraid of sufferings, and suffering is important to pray from the heart. So Maharaj, what to do how can we become fearless?
How can we become fearless in the face of difficulties?
Yeah, because we
Well,
see sufferings all the time.
We what?
Sufferings all the time around us, Maharaj.
Yeah, sufferings are there. This is the material world. As long as you have a material body, you will experience suffering to some degree or other. But of course, as we purify ourselves and make advancement in devotional service, we come to the realization, I'm not this body, and whatever sufferings come by way of living in this material world with a material body are mitigated simply by the process of pure devotional service. So the devotee learns how to tolerate them. They're not happening to me, they're happening to my body. But still, because I'm in the body, I'm feeling some discomfort, some so-called suffering. They just tolerate it. What can you do? We shouldn't try to avoid suffering. We should simply try to stay engaged in devotional service and just depend on Krishna's mercy. That's all. Those who try to organize their life to avoid various types of suffering find themselves never doing anything positive in life, just avoiding the misery. And they waste time and energy. You know, just like we depend on Krishna. Just like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling and he came to, some of his devotees were there. And he had to go onward. He was traveling towards South India, and he had to cross a very dangerous place where many of the Pathan soldiers had set up their encampment. And there was also a war going on in that area. Lord Chaitanya had to pass through that area. So they told him, Mahaprabhu, you know, it's not a good time. Maybe you should wait. He said, is there ever a time in the material world that there's no danger? Of course, he's the Supreme Lord, but he was giving the example that there's always danger in the material world. Padam padam yavi padam. It's there everywhere. You lay in your bed, you can roll out of your bed and land on the floor, and that'd be the last thing you do, you know. It's happened. We laugh sometimes when we think it, you know, but there are people who have died simply by falling out of their bed. And or you go to sleep at night and you don't know, am I going to wake up or not? There's a prayer that I used to chant when I was a little boy, when I was growing up in Christian tradition. And we used to pray this prayer before we go to sleep. And it goes like this. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Now we used to pray like that when we were kids. We learned that as a Christian prayer. So we just depend on Krishna. We should not be overly fearful that we can't function in life. Life is a risk. You don't know, you know. Prabhupada was talking, he was with his devotees in Denver and they were walking through one park. And he was making the same point, and he said, at any moment, this whole park could turn into a gigantic fire, and everything will change within a second. So yeah, some crazy guy in one of the countries in the world decides to unleash the nuclear weapon. You never know. So there's people who are crazy enough to try it. And then, you know, thousands of people will be killed just by one crazy guy letting loose a nuclear weapon or some kind of destructive bomb or something. That's a difficult world. You know? What can you do? You just have to, it says that one who remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead is free from all dangers. So that's our shelter. If we remember Krishna, we can feel the mercy of Krishna protecting us at every moment. And Krishna will protect you. Lord, we pray to Lord Nrsingadev for protection. Bahir Nishringo, Hridaye Nishringo. Everywhere I go, my dear Lord, please give me protection. Lord Chaitanya, when he was traveling across Jarikhanda forest, he sang, Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. So you know what Rakshamam means, please protect me. The Lord Chaitanya, as he was traveling through the Jarikhanda forest, he was singing that prayer, asking the Lord for protection. Please protect me.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thank you. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments?
We shouldn't be fearful, but we should be careful.
Yeah. Scarlett Mataji? You're on mute, Mataji.
Sorry. Hare Krishna, thank you very much for today. You mentioned it's not good to be afraid, to do the to please Lord Krishna, but not with the fear. If one can't help it, do everything with respect and fear. Is that not acceptable? Is that means that that's not good? You don't do right.
I'm just trying to understand your question.
Can you repeat it again, Mataji?
When let us say me, I'm doing everything. I'm doing the service that I can do to please Lord Krishna, but I do it with respect and kind of fear. Is it not acceptable? Is it wrong? I should stop and wait until I do it with the love?
No, there are 4 motivations by which people do devotional service. And fear is the lowest. Higher than that is happiness. Third is duty. Fourth is love. Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes this distinction that fear is generally for children or people who have no intelligence. So we create this thing that if you don't serve the Lord, you'll get punished in this way. You won't be able to do these things, you know. It's like a restrictive type of way of encouraging people to do the right thing. That's the lowest. Higher than that is, I'll serve because it'll make me happy. But then again, if I perceive that I won't get happiness from my service, I may not serve, or I might serve half-heartedly. So a devotee has to be situated on the next platform, which is the third one, duty. That I serve because it's my duty. I'm not looking for happiness. I'm not looking for distress. I'm not motivated by fear of loss or fear of not gaining. I'm motivated simply because it's my duty to serve the Lord. I am his part and parcel, and that is my constitutional position to serve. So one should elevate themselves to that platform. And if by practicing devotional service as a means of duty, as we make advancement through the different stages, we come to the stage of love. And then we are inspired and motivated simply because we are attracted to Krishna in a loving way. So this fear aspect is really something that we consider to be a very poor form of motivation for a person to do things. It's not for people who are less intelligent, people who cannot do it any other way. So we say, all right, if you don't serve, you'll go to hell. If you don't serve, then you won't get this, you won't get that. In other words, this is what we use for children generally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Maharaj, I have a question. Like I was thinking, like when you are fixed in the devotional service and when you become sincere, then that is the path to the devotional service, or it is easy to go back to Godhead. But nowadays, many devotees, they are practicing, and I see that small things for they are not able to commit themselves. Like even the new people or the practicing devotees are just 1 or 2 years into Krishna consciousness. They are not able to commit to anything. They just come and go. They don't sometimes for small things they don't take commitments. So how to encourage this kind of behavior or this type of tendency, Maharaj?
Obviously, what you're talking about, people who haven't been trained in devotional service. Without training, just coming into devotional service and practicing it, it'll become very difficult to understand what it means to practice devotional service. Therefore, the benefit that they should get is they should go to the classes. They should go to these different educational programs that teach Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar Devotion, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Upanishads. They should learn the scriptures and hear about the scriptures and hear about the process of devotional service. If we put obligations on people who just can come into our movement, they'll pick and choose. And they'll put their material life as a priority and devotional service as something that is a part of their life, but not something that is really most important. Because, we're inviting people to come, but we have to understand is those who are living in the ashram, who are getting different regular training, as opposed to those who are living outside, it doesn't mean they are more advanced because they're living in the ashram, but they're more exposed to what they need for Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada made that distinction. When you're living in the temple and you're living outside, it's like if you're a stockbroker and you're trying to make money on the stock exchange, if you're right there on the stock exchange trading as things appear and disappear in the market, you're getting all the action and you're making profits right away and you're moving your money this way. But if you're living outside and you're a stockbroker, you get once in a while you get a chance to make some gain. But because you're not right there where all the action is happening, you're not going to get the same benefit as those who are right there where everything is happening. So living in the temple is an advantage to living outside. But living outside, if one is serious, and they take shelter of the process, especially to take time to learn this philosophy. We're going to start I was just talking to one devotee in our movement. She gives Bhagavad Gita classes regularly, and she convinced me that we should start a program on our Zoom call by giving a class every day on one chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The course will last for 18 days, taking one chapter each day as an overview. Because if we don't learn the Bhagavad Gita, how are we going to understand Srimad Bhagavatam? We can to some degree because Prabhupada's purports help to open that up. The Bhagavad Gita is fundamental to the knowledge that we need in order to practice devotional service. Krishna lays it out really completely, and Prabhupada's Gita is so expertly organized is that it very systematically presents the knowledge and the philosophy that is easily understandable. Prabhupada's Gita is a masterpiece. It's so systematic, so clear, and so in line with the words that Krishna is giving in his discussion with Arjuna. So Bhagavad Gita, we have to learn Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavatam begins where Gita leaves off.
Mhm.
So yeah, but still we can study Bhagavatam too. But we should have a working knowledge of Gita before we can actually understand this process of Krishna consciousness.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah.
Gita is so important.
Yeah, thank you so much. When you are saying about training, what kind training means? Like we invite them to Bhakti Vrikshas and systematically train them, Maharaj.
Yeah, we do have programs for education, just like I'm here in Mayapur. And I'm living at Mayapur Institute, which is the educational place where devotees come from around the world every year to get Bhakti Shastra, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta training. And there are
Mm.
courses given by teachers on different parts of Gita and Bhagavatam. And there's this systematic, there's textbooks, there's workbooks, there's discussions, and there's ultimately tests also. So I encourage the devotees every year that at least 1 year come here and take these courses.
Mm.
They also have courses in teaching people deity worship. That's called the Mayapur Academy. And they have courses for cooking also. And for 6 months, from October to March, you stay here for 6 months. You get the benefit of living in the town for 6 whole months. You get systematic courses in education, philosophy, duty worship, all of that. And you actually get degrees. You get certificates saying that you have passed this. And then when you go back to your respective temples, that will be honored. That way you can find yourself getting opportunities for, service. And you can also give classes, so many things. So Mayapur is a training ground. Vrindavan also, they've set up similar types of programs also. And this is Prabhupada's desire. He's 1974. He talked about setting this whole educational system and having a different levels of teaching and even degrees given according to the level of accomplishment. Every year, towards the end of around March, just before the Gaur Purnima festival, they give out awards for people who graduate in the different levels of education. They give awards for people who pass the duty worship courses, like that. And there are senior devotees who come to eulogize the whole process and congratulate the devotees for making this effort to increase their Krishna consciousness. It's available for anyone and everyone. So, all you have to do 1 year is come. Come in October, make it a vacation, put everything else aside, come for 6 months.
Mm.
November, December, January, February, March. And you'll be in the midst of so many nice festivals, so much wonderful association. It's not only a learning experience, it's a what we say, what's the word? Intensified experience for becoming Krishna consciousness. So joyful. I have to leave here in 2 days. On Friday, I'm leaving. And I'm thinking, boy, I don't really want to go. But I have my duty, and then my duty is first. But anyway. So yeah, it's so nice being in Mayapur, to put it in a very simplified way. Those who have had that experience can attest to that. It's just so nice.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for sending me here.
Yeah, now you have to get here.
Thank you,
With
Maharaj.
your mercy, anything is possible, even for a useless person like me, Guru Maharaj.
Mukhan karoti vachalam. So
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, we have so many opportunities, and Mayapur is called the headquarters of the ISKCON Society. Prabhupada said this is our headquarters, world headquarters.
Mm.
And it's the place just down the road is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace. Why don't we take some time and come to the Holy Dham and really get spiritually charged up? It's an experience that will stay with you. And carry that back to you, to your place.
Mm.
There's so many opportunities for education. I mean, I can't believe what goes on here. And things are happening every day in volumes, so many programs, so many. And aside from that, there are devotees who hold individual programs at their apartments or at their homes, along with what goes on in the temple. It's a bonanza.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much. With your mercy, maybe one day I can try that one too. Thank you so much.
Don't wait too long.
Yes, Maharaj. Bhikkhu Prabhuji, you have a question?
Yes, please. Is it okay? Is there time?
Yeah, Maharaj, is it okay if you take? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I left the time behind. You can go on.
Maharaj, please accept our humble and Dandavat pranams. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. We are not young as some of your active devotees, but preparing for the requirements that are needed for initiation. What I would love to share with you today is before the year ended, we attended Gita Jayanti in Manor, which was the recitation of all the 700 verses. And Keshav Maharaj, as you know well, gave very good audio-visual demonstration on each chapter, how Gita relates to the world events. Where I'm coming from is in one of the session, it was asked for us to see what's our desire for 2024. And I would like to just mention it to you that my desire or spiritual desire for this year is to gain or attain or try to gain purity of mind and also to enjoy relish chanting, which I'm struggling, but I'm trying. And I do remember you mentioned once that endeavor and then blessings. So I want to develop these qualities and would like, the question is, have you got any suggestion or something that I should do? And let it be your order, instruction, I'm happy.
Well, it's understood if we have a particular goal, then we see what will support our achieving that goal. So your goal is to purify your chanting, then read about the glories of the holy name. Try to get as much information that you can about how to approach the holy name. What is the position of the holy name in relationship to everything else? And take association for those who are fixed in chanting of the holy name, and get inspired by their example. So Shiva Ram Maharaj, in one of his previous books called Sankalpa Kumudi explains that there's a thing called Eka something, and there's another terminology, Ekavrata, means focusing on what you want to achieve and then understanding how to get there. It's like if you want to go on a journey, you make plans on how to get to that place. So it's not that you're going to go on a journey and then you just get into any particular vehicle that's going in any direction. You just hope you get there. It won't work. So applying some of the principles that center around the goal. And for instance, the holy name, there's much information given in the scriptures on the glories of the holy name, on the chanting of the holy name. There are prayers recited by the great souls, such as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami. Who else glorifies the holy name? There's so many wonderful prayers centered around the glorification of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Srila Haridas Thakur. I would suggest, if you want a suggestion, I would suggest you read, what is that? The book by Bhakti Vinod Thakur on chanting the holy name, Harinam Chintamani. Read Harinam Chintamani. It's a small book, but it takes you step by step through the process of perfecting your chanting. It's one of the most important books on the holy name.
Right.
And there's different versions, but of course they're all titled Bhakti Vinod Thakur, but the presentation is done by different personalities, and there's slightly different. But the one that is the most authorized, it's found in ISKCON, Harinam Chintamani. I think it has like a red cover, a purple cover, something like that. It's, yeah, and read it carefully.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. That's very useful to the start of the new year. And I will go through the recording of what you said to digest and act on it. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments? Maharaj, I don't see any questions. Further, I just want to announce for tomorrow's class before we went.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that one.
Yeah, so it's tomorrow's class is with Bhakti Sangha Charlotte devotees. Verse number is 7th canto, 3rd chapter, verse number 34. 7-3-34.
Okay. And that
And the time is 20 minutes later for our regular time. So it's 12:20 p.m. UK time and 5:50 p.m. IST. Indians. Yeah. So if there are no more questions, I think we can end the call here now. Thank you all so much.
You know, we set ourselves up, and we have so many obligations in the material world with family members, with children, with occupation, and we get into that niche and we can't get out of it. But take some time, break out, especially around this time of year, Gaur Purnima time. Come to the Holy Dham and take advantage of the association and the benefits of the Dham. Become energized and re-spiritualized in a very powerful way. That's why these holy dhams are here. They're not just here so we can make a temple. We're here to invite devotees all over the world to come and associate. And you will meet devotees from practically every continent in the world when you come to, Mayapur. or even Vrindavan is also quite cosmopolitan, but Mayapur even more so. We have to
Yes.
get out of our little rut sometimes and just go on a spiritual trek.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much for reminding us timely. Thank you so much.
And that's why we have all of these festivals. We have our retreat coming up in first weekend in May, Italy. A chance to associate and to learn more about Krishna consciousness. The association of devotees is the happiness that we achieve in Krishna consciousness. When we're together with devotees, sadhu sangha becomes the nectar that we're looking for.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we can end the call here, Maharaj. So if I don't see any questions. Okay, thank you so much, devotees. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much. Devotees, Hare Krishna. I'll see you all tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.